Bruce Roberts was a one-of-a-kind artist. He was self-taught, and art was his passion. And unfortunately, the world is not going to see him on this plane for a while, but his art still lives on. And I'm going through a lot of his work. I mean, he was very prolific. He went in all directions. He drew like a master, and he painted very unusual things. And even though he's known for his horses, and he's done many horses in every possible style, he also loved just drawing animals and people and orchestras and nature and whatever. And he did portraits on the street. I mean, he did absolutely everything. He did illustrations for children's books. He did packaging. He did whatever ever came in front of him. He managed to create something quite beautiful and original out of it. And he kept reinventing himself. He never stopped doing other things, because he couldn't do the same thing over and over again. Even if he did the same thing, he always did it differently. And when he taught at UQAM, that was one of the very first assignments he gave his students, was to tell them, draw me 100 forks. And some students, some students did 25 perfect forks and gave up. Some did 10, 15, and only one or two really did 100 forks, but 100 different forks in every single fashion available. Especially one guy. I mean, he did a book, and each fork was an abstract art. Each piece was an original piece, taking a simple subject and creating it in a multitude of different ways. So that student didn't need to come back to any other class after that, because he understood. So yeah, I mean, he was an extremely prolific artist himself. I mean, he never did one drawing for an assignment. He always did 15 and 20, and then if the art director wasn't sure that's what he wanted, he would give him 15 and 20 more, and he would do this with great equanimity, like as many as you need until he made somebody happy. He just had this passion for what he did, and his paintings are very different from his drawings, and he was really exploring that, even though he didn't really see himself as a painter, and he always wanted to be one. And yet, when I'm starting to uncover some of his work, I'm finding some most amazing stuff that I didn't even know he did when I wasn't looking. So I am left with this legacy that I want to do at least one book about him and his work, and at least more than one show. And I think he has a lot to teach other people about art. As José Blanchette said about him, he was a pure artist. He didn't do it for the money. He did it for the love of it. And he gave away more drawings than he sold in paintings, and which he shouldn't have done, because it should have been the other way around. But anyways, he had to do it that way. He was a very generous artist, and he was one of a kind. Adriana asked me if did he paint in the studio, and I said no. He painted everywhere else but the studio. He loved going to cafes and drawing. He'd bring a 4x6 foot canvas on his bicycle, and he'd bring it into a restaurant and paint a scene in the restaurant in situ, as he would say, and before everybody's eyes, because he loved doing performance art and painting in front of an audience. And one of the things he did was he started doing a series, which were actually shown at the Museum Rental Gallery, of images of Montreal. And one of them was he wanted to do the bicycle couriers at Place Ville Marie, but when he went there with his 4x6 foot canvas, it started pouring rain, so there were no couriers around. There were just their bicycles. So he painted their bicycles in the rain, and then the rain made the canvas drip in places. But it was the most dramatic, beautiful painting of bicycles I've ever seen, that is owned by actually a collector who in the Eastern Townships. And so, I mean, he would constantly do strange things. He he would take a canvas to the rehearsals of the Montreal Symphony Orchestra, and not only did he do a painting sketch of the orchestra there, then and there, but he would get everybody from the orchestra to sign it, which was what would complete the painting. And he had a lot of people. He loved when people signed and wrote comments on his paintings or certain paintings. He would invite crowds to do that, and they go, "No, I can't touch that." And he said, no, it's going to add to the painting. It's going to add to its patina. So he did a whole series. I think Adriana is going to show you somewhere. When it was the Olympics, the Winter Olympics of speed skaters and ice skaters, and he got people. He took the paintings to Place Ville-Marie and got all kinds of people at the lunch hour to write comments on the painting about supporting the Canada Olympic team. And actually, the writing adds a whole other graffiti, a whole other patina to the painting. So it's in between graffiti and a painting, and it works brilliantly. Banksy would have approved, I think, of what he did there. I don't know what else to say about Bruce. I mean, he did he did 25 children's books, among other things.
We can take a break.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Another thing Bruce taught me, I mean, a lot of people love horses. They love Bruce's sense of motion of horses. He was really good at capturing things live. He really believed that he would encourage his students to get out of the studio and go into the real world to paint and draw, because his idea was, I mean, you can't really drawing a nude in a studio. How many nude people do you see on the street? I mean, he didn't see the point of that, and he really liked capturing things in motion and observing. He observed so many details. I mean, he could draw on the metro, he could draw on the street, he could sit on a pavement and draw. Anywhere he went, he found whatever spot was available, and he would create something of beauty. Or he would notice things that most people didn't notice, or they'd find ugly. Like, he did a whole series of paintings and drawings and sculpture at Hotel Nelligan about pigeons. For him, the pigeons were the concierges of the city, that they had luminescent wings, and they had a certain beauty, and that they mated for life, and they had a certain grace and wonderment about them that we take for granted. We just see them as dirty creatures, but he saw them. He really embraced them, and I mean, behind me, he would take just some wire and create a pigeon this way, whatever. He could take the simplest materials and make it interesting. When we did the show on pigeons, there was this woman who came and said, "I love your horses, but I hate pigeons. Why did you do a show of pigeons? I mean, I hate them. I have a phobia about pigeons. But when I look at your pigeons, they're so beautiful." So he totally changed her perception of pigeons, which is what good art should do. It should allow you to see the ordinary in an extraordinary way. And he was a real advocate of that. And he did that a lot in his art. He'd always surprise you with some other subject. I mean, he decided to do a show on traffic. I thought, who wants to know about traffic, Bruce? It's a negative subject, traffic. It's pollution. And he, no. It's part of the heartbeat of the city. Cars moving through space. I mean, he did some wonderful F1 paintings that way, that almost look abstracted, and his cars look like toy cars speeding along, like what every little boy wishes for. So he saw the magic in everything. And his kids' drawings weren't typical kids' drawings. He didn't draw like Disney, where all the lines have to be closed. He didn't underestimate the intelligence of children to read his drawings and to see all the details that were in them, even though it was a very loosey-goosey kind of style that a lot of book publishers to this day won't use because they feel it's too sophisticated for children. And it isn't. They totally get it. They totally understand his drawing. And now he has inspired a number of small children to say they want to become artists when they grow up. I don't know how happy their parents are about that, but he has inspired quite a few to say that. And including my bank manager, who was very happy that his